main focus point on InvestTalk today is about good debt and bad debt. Now, there are some people, like my grandfather, who he would say that all debt was bad debt. But others take a more nuanced approach, and I am one of those. Good or bad debt depends on what you're spending it on and the terms at which you borrow. Generally, good debt allows someone to accomplish something, whether that is meaningful personal goals or it is to add personal capital, mainly education, so that they can grow their value in the marketplace and grow their income. So let's talk about what is considered good debt and bad debt. And a lot of times it isn't black or white. In this world of right versus left, political polarization, I always like to say the world does not exist in extremes. The vast majority of things, political, non-political, financial, non-financial, there's usually an in-between that is closer to reality than one side is right or one side is not. And that same thing with good and bad. So most people think of good debt. I'll start with good debt, and I'll tell you when it can be good and when it can creep into bad. The first is mortgages. Most people will consider a mortgage on your home to be good debt because it's helping you accomplish some personal goals, lifestyle goals. Okay, for example, it allows you to be an owner and maybe change the home in ways that more fits your lifestyle and your needs. And it helps you build equity over time. But it can be bad if you are taking on too much mortgage debt at too high of the interest rate, paying things like PMI, or buying a quote-unquote investment property and your cash flow is deeply negative. So there's ways that mortgages can be bad for your financial health. But it does tend to be one if you're using it in the simple way most do, which is 30-year fix, try to keep that rate low, maybe pay a bit more on it over time, but it can be good debt for a lot of people. Number 2, student loans. For most people, younger, they're trying to further their education and they know what they want to do, it can be great debt to take on. Because that cost will be amortized over decades of work and the payback period is often very short. But that's only if you kind of know what you're doing or what you want to do, what your career path is. I remember back when I was in college, there were plenty of kids. I was lucky enough to know going into college what I wanted to do. But there were plenty of kids that, were just there to be there, to enjoy college and quote unquote figure it out. Now I was lucky to go to college, over a couple decades ago, and it felt expensive at the time, but it's way more expensive than it is today. Sorry, way more expensive today than it was then. So you have to really know what you're going to do. If you're just kind of floating, trying to figure it out, oftentimes student debt can become very bad because a lot of those kids drop out, but they still have that debt, but they don't have the degree or knowledge to really advance their careers. So it can turn into bad debt. Business loans. This can be good debt if you have a business plan, you know how to execute it, you have some experience, but just taking out loans to start a business without really a clear direction and a clear understanding of how to make it in the marketplace, it can turn into bad debt very quickly. Then interest-free loans. Interest-free loans, once again, can be good if you are making energy efficient improvements to your home, for example, and getting 0% loans for that. And there are programs for that. You might be getting down payment assistance programs, for example. So there are ways to do this. But the bad debt turns into bad debt when it's some sort of like a buy now, pay later. It's a gimmick, right? You get 0% for X number of months or years, and it's interest free. But if you don't pay it all off by the end of that period, you accrue interest throughout that time, and then you are charged it at the end of that period. So you have to make sure that interest-free loans are truly interest-free, or if they are on some sort of payment plan, that you make sure you pay that off by the end of the period. If you can't, then it can turn into very, very expensive and bad debt rather quickly. And that goes the same with refinancing debt. So a lot of times you'll get these offers in the mail to consolidate your credit card loans and refinance what you are currently paying on. And that can be a good way to lower your overall interest rate. But if you instead use that out to go up your spending more, it can turn into bad debt. Okay, so it's really about how you use the debt and make sure you limit it, you limit the interest rate, and you use it for specific purposes as opposed to just discretionary fun. You definitely don't want to add debt for those reasons.